Your grad year isn't just about surviving, it's your unofficial job interview that sets you up for the rest of your career. Today, I'm going to be covering the do's and don'ts of making a good impression in your graduate year. This is part of a series that aims to help you feel more prepared for your first year as a nurse. We're covering the things that they don't really teach you in nursing school. No textbooks, no lectures, just real advice from someone who's been through it and wants to see you succeed in your first year. I was a graduate nurse in 2021, I think. So I've been through it, and I've also been on the other side of the fence and seen a few lots of grads come through. I've learnt from my own mistakes. I've learnt from other people's mistakes. Yes, you've just finished uni. Yes, you've gotten through. Yes, you got the program, but you're not done yet. Sometimes in our grad year, we are so busy on just trying to survive that we forget the big picture. We forget the importance of making a good impression in our graduate year. It's just the beginning of your career. Depending on what area you get into after your graduate year determines the course of your career. You might not necessarily know what you want to do yet, but making a good impression ensures that you're going to have as many options in as many different areas as possible. All right, point one is going to be some housekeeping on professionalism. I know you're finally free from university and the strict uniform policies in nursing school, and you've seen all the cool nurses wearing all the cool shoes and all the cool scrubs and the hairstyles and this and that, and you want it all. You're free to have all of that, right? But just wait, patience. Even if you're on a ward where the uniform policy seems to be a bit less strict and they don't seem to care about hairstyles, jewelry, what scrubs you wear, etc. Find out what your hospital policy is and just do it. Just abide by it. I cannot stress this enough. At least the first few months, I really want you to be focusing on your presentation, your uniform, looking neat and tidy. It's not just about looks. What you're showing with your appearance is that you can adhere to a uniform policy, and therefore you can adhere to all hospital policies. It shows that you care about your job, that you are putting the effort in, that it matters to you, that you've got a good attitude, that you don't want to do anything wrong. So it's not just about the looks. This isn't a superficial, shallow kind of thing, but I think it will also just give you that confidence as well, that you feel professional, you feel presentable, you feel more confident in yourself. If your focus in the first few months is on getting the trending scrubs and this and that, as opposed to the job at hand and integrating yourself as a new health professional into the environment, that's what your priorities should be. So that's what you're demonstrating when you show up every day, paying attention to detail in your uniform, making sure that it's clean, making sure all of that for the first at least 3 months. If you've got good stamina to do it for the rest of the year, do it for as long as you possibly can. And in showing that you're not just going to start slacking off with your uniform as other people are, it also shows that you're not going to start slacking off with abiding to hospital policy and being safe. Because obviously in our first couple of years as a nurse, that is when we're likely to make the most amount of mistakes. To minimize that, we want to be showing that we are adhering to hospital policy. That is our safety net. I'll go into this in a second, but adhering to hospital policy is going to be your safety net from making a lot of mistakes. So by doing this, you're showing that you're doing it everywhere. On mistakes, let's just say you do, God forbid, but it happens to all of us. If you make a mistake in your graduate year, if you are someone who consistently shows up, putting effort into your appearance and showing that you can abide by hospital policy and that this job matters to you, people are going to think when you made that mistake that it was a sincere mistake. They're going to be more forgiving and accepting of it. On the other hand, if you show up as someone who is sloppy, messy, has the whole kind of attitude that they don't really care, that they're willing to bend the rules where they can. And when you make your first mistake, they're gonna think that's why you made it, out of being careless because you were cutting corners. So use your uniform and your presentation as a bit of a safety net to get you a few brownie points. If something does go wrong, people are going to be more sincere because it looks like you take your job seriously. All right, point 2 is showing up eager to learn. This shows genuine interest and that you are an enthusiastic employee, both of which are ticks in making a good impression. No one expects you to know everything, but they do notice your attitude. So ask questions, be humble, be willing to take on feedback in a non-reactive way. You're gonna have to accept that there's gonna be a lot that you don't know. There's gonna be a lot of times where you're corrected and you're told that you're doing something wrong. As a person, what do you like in that situation? Because you're gonna need to demonstrate that you're not taking criticism personally and you're taking it on the chin, you're taking it constructively. The grads who stand out aren't necessarily the smartest, it's the ones who are willing to grow. That attitude builds trust really fast with senior staff because you're showing that you actually care about getting better instead of just caring about getting through your shift. Take every opportunity to learn. It's what takes you from just another grad to someone who actually wants to be on their team. I have seen from time to time that once new nurses come in and they've gotten over the first couple of months, they start to get real comfortable and they start taking on the attitude of the nurses who have been there for 30 years, forgetting that they don't have a permanent position. This might look like turning up late, turning up in a bad mood, huffing and puffing, complaining, being obnoxious, being unprofessional and complaining about things in your personal life. It's nice that we start to feel like we're a part of the team and that we feel like we can let some of our guards down but still maintain your professionalism. Wait to do those things until once you have a permanent job, okay? I'm not saying that you need to be a robot nurse every single day and show up clinical placement vibes, so happy to be there and so enthusiastic, you might actually start scaring people. So it's totally normal to have a bad day every now and then. It shows that you're human. Just don't be obnoxious about it. Be private. Just sing out and say, hey, I'm having a bad day. This is going on. A lot of this is common sense. So if you've got common sense, I think you'll be fine, but definitely let yourself have a bad day. Let other people in on the fact if you are having a bad day, because you will burn out if you're turning up every single day like Mrs. or Mr. Perfect. Again, treat your grad year like it is a job interview, being mindful of the fact that you're in a professional environment. I think sometimes new nurses forget that other nurses talk and that they are being watched. This isn't out of a gossiping way, but graduate nurses can be problematic or they can be fantastic. And by problematic, I mean, just think of any job that you've had if you've seen new employees come through and some of them have been really problematic. It's something that the regular staff want to know about. It's something that they want to watch out for. You don't want to get a bad name for yourself, and certainly being unprofessional, even if there's no senior staff members around and you think that it's safe because your preceptor or your nurse unit manager or your educator aren't around and you're all cool with the regular staff members, don't forget that people talk and that your attitude really reflects on how you are as a nurse. Also, try and make it a habit of arriving to your shift early. Not only will this help you to make a good impression, but it will help you feel more calm before your shift, give you some time to get organized and just think through how you're going to set your shift up. Maybe look over the handover sheet, see where you're allocated. Point 3 is safety and doing things by the book. I'll always be the first one to say that nursing is not always by the book. It's never textbook perfect. We develop more efficient ways of doing things within our clinical judgment, depending on time constraints or the certain area that we work in. Since hospital policy is constantly being updated, you will see a lot of outdated ways of doing things that aren't necessarily unsafe. They're just different. For example, I take bloods and cannulate differently to what this year's graduates would have been taught because the hospital policy has since been changed. That doesn't mean that the way I do it is wrong or unsafe. So you will see a lot of different ways of doing things based on people's backgrounds, based on how long they've been a nurse. But for your first year, I want you to practice doing everything as per the latest hospital policy. Similar to the uniform policy, if you know how to find hospital policy and you can demonstrate how to follow hospital policy, that's pretty much all we do. So if you can do that and you demonstrate that you can do that on a regular basis, tick, tick, tick. And the way you first learn to do something is the way that it will stick with you for the rest of your career. So don't build up bad habits and sloppy or unsafe ways of doing things. Practice as best you can to really drill in the gold standard of how to do something. Build that as your strong base. Prove that you can abide by hospital policy where you need to, because there definitely are times where you should be doing it at all times, really, unless you've got a really good reason. That also goes with saying that don't feel the pressure to engage in other people's ways of doing things, especially if they're unsafe. I say this especially for administering drugs and scheduled drugs. Please just do everything properly. Don't get caught doing something the wrong way because you've been pressured to just do a shortcut. Same with mobilizing patients. Don't get caught doing unsafe manual handling. A nurse or a patient is pressuring you to do that. Just use the excuse that you've got a sore back or a sore shoulder. Don't build bad habits, and also look after yourself. This is part of, I've spoken about in previous videos, where you've got to learn this skill of saying no and dealing with uncomfortable situations such as this. Feeling the pressure to engage in unsafe practice is something that nurses deal with all the time, no matter what level of experience you are. You're always working with different nurses who have different ways of doing things, and especially in your graduate year, I don't want you to be engaging in any of those things. Just milk the grad card, be sincere, say that you really don't want to get caught doing something, or you just really want to practice doing everything by the hospital policy first, and yeah, that's fine. You might get a few eye rolls, but at the end of the day, is it really worth your reputation, you know? Because people do notice those things if you are engaging in unsafe practice. For now, just observe and make mental note of the way that other people are doing things that are non-conventional or shortcuts, and wait to do them until after you've got a secure position somewhere. I don't think there's anything wrong with practicing differently as long as it is safe and as long as you are aware of what the right way on how to do something is, and you can rationalize why you're doing it differently. So if you like someone's way of doing it, be curious, ask them, hey, I really like how you're doing that. I notice that's different to the hospital policy. What do you normally say to rationalize the way you do that? Or have you ever been pulled up on it, etc.? Be curious, not accusatory. I hope I said that right, I don't know. But yeah, because obviously when you do pull people up, which I'll go into in a second, when you do pull people up on the way that they are doing something, if it's different, it can make people put up their guard and get a bit defensive. So if you are interested in someone's way of doing something, come at it from a eager to learn, curious point of view, like what I've just said. Because at the end of the day, if you get pulled up for doing something differently, and you will get asked, why are you doing it that way? To say, oh, because so-and-so does it like that, and or it's just quicker, or it's just easier, that is not gonna fly. All right, point 4 is whistleblowing and arrogant behavior. Now, just because you've been a nurse for 5 minutes does not mean you go in guns blazing, reporting everyone who's not doing things by the book. I get it. You've just finished years of study and you know a lot, but nurses can sense the difference between confidence and ego instantly. This one's tricky. We're taught to always speak up about unsafe practice, but in the real world, it can come across as overstepping or creating tension in the team. Like I said earlier, nursing is full of old school ways of doing things. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are unsafe and that they need to be reported. That's not to say that you shouldn't report something that is seriously unsafe. Never ignore a situation that is seriously compromising patient safety. You will know when you are in that situation. Always report it, and if you're scared to rock the boat or cause tension, you can even put in an anonymous letter and hand that in to your nurse unit manager. But while you're still learning the ropes, just focus on you and focus on doing things the right way, as opposed to the fact that other people are doing things differently. Just focus on you. Alrighty, and my final point, I forget what number we're up to, is time management. Now, this is a big problem, let's say, for new nurses. It's a very common problem. Having bad time management when you first become a nurse is a widely accepted and experienced thing. It's quite normal to hear that, oh, for the first week that I was a nurse, I left an hour late every single day doing notes or something like that. That's quite normal, and no one's going to judge you for that. But if it's been a couple of months and you're still consistently leaving late and handing over important tasks, missing obs, not taking breaks, it can give the impression that you are not coping very well. I'll touch on time management tips in another video. What's important is, if you do find yourself in this boat where you're finding it a bit tricky to time manage, we all have our good days and our bad days with time management, depending on how unexpectedly busy the workload can suddenly get. It's important that you try and set yourself up early and always prepare for a sudden rush. If you find yourself leaving late, don't beat yourself up, but please just take the time to non-judgmentally reflect on what happened, what went wrong, what you could have done to prevent it, and this will ensure that your time management is getting better. Don't worry about the fact if you're making a bad impression by leaving late. The grads who make a good impression are not the ones who are perfect, but the ones who can demonstrate that they are able to improve week by week. So if you are struggling with time management and you are feeling behind with your workload, definitely flag it with your buddy nurse. If you've got one, flag it with the nurse in charge. But yeah, always ask for help if you are falling behind. That way, if you get asked about it, you can at least demonstrate that you were aware that you were falling behind and the interventions that you tried to put in place to prevent you from staying back late or prevent you from not taking your break. Well done for making it to the end of the video, and well done for clicking on the video too. It shows that you care enough to make a good impression in your first year as a nurse, which is a green tick in my book. In the next episode, I'm going to be going into how you can set up for your first and every shift for success. So stay tuned for that one. I'll see you next time. Bye.